play in Wyoming. Like, guys, you know what I mean? If you actually adjusted it for, what he was doing correctly, he was over a 60% passer. And so if somebody would have done the homework, and somebody probably did do the homework, they're like, yeah, he's actually a pretty good passer. Like the stats do not always tell the story.
No, now he's a Hall of Famer. All right, big thanks to Spirit Mountain Casino for having Alex and I down. Right now, Ohio State starting to take control. They're on top 14-7.
there, Rip City. Welcome into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you, having a little bit of fun. We are live. Boy, how about that national championship game? Notre Dame marched right down the field, took the lead, and now Ohio State's like, yeah, okay, that was cute. Now we're trying to take over. They got a, 14-7 lead, looking to score again. Watch out. Here come the Buckeyes. Someone asked me, who you rooting for? He said, you rooting for Ohio State? You rooting for Notre Dame? I said, neither. I'm rooting for Chip Kelly. That way I'm not picking a side. I'm not going against any allegiances. And also, as a Duck fan, screw you, Ohio State. That Rose Bowl hurt. All right, back to basketball, or let's, better yet, just to basketball. Time to get to it. We got a special guest in studio today. If you guys remember, back in the day, there was this fun little show on NBC Sports. We aired only online. It was called The Scoop with Jamie Hudson. And Jamie Hudson was kind enough to let me jump in and never leave the show and kind of became her pseudo co-host. Thanks to her, I was her co-host, but management never officially said I was her co-host. It was never The Scoop with Jamie and Chris. It was always The Scoop with Jamie Hudson. But occasionally, this weird little goblin of a NBA reporter would jump on, and his name was Oliver Maroney. And I yelled one day, oh, Maroney in the house, as loud as I could, and it echoed through the Rose Garden. He'll never forget it. And he's joining us today live on Courtside. Oliver, welcome in to Courtside Monday. Nice to have you.
Oh, it's nice to be back, man. This is it's been a long time. It's been a long time since we've done one of these before.
It has been a minute since I've had you on. We've talked plenty of times. I keep saying, hey, I got to get you on. We gotta get the band back together, so to speak. And now we are. We're here. We're having some fun. And you brought your son Rory with you. He's here enjoying the show.
Yep.
Here's the thing. This is the tough part for you, Oliver. Oliver was telling me the other day that thanks to Internet Archives existing, you can still go on to Facebook and go to the old NBC Sports page and find all of the old Scoop episodes. I have some saved because I saved all the bookmarks for my reel, so I could download them and all that.
There you go.
I popped one up because I was going to try to see if I could find one with me and you, so I could tweet that out today for engagement.
That
Couldn't find
nice.
one. But I got really upset when I saw it because I saw one and there's Jamie and I, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like no gray in my beard. And now my beard is like all gray. I pretty much have to put filters on YouTube just to make some of the gray come through as black.
There you go.
Just to help me out. But you were telling me that you had to bring up some old episodes because you had to convince your son that you used to do this.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I bring up the records in the history books every once in a while. I show him what's going on. I try and give him some insight into what his pops used to do. Try and help him out where he can. But he's a huge Blazer fan. We go to a bunch of games. We see you there all the time. But yeah, he's a big fan. So figured why not bring him in and have him get the experience here.
Yeah, and then that's when I saw you guys. You guys were in the building for the Houston game because I know you guys are both you like the Ducks. You're friends, air quotes, with old Dylan Brooks. You guys go back, right?
We go back. Yeah, I helped him do his NBA draft video actually.
That's right.
I was going back in time there, but
so you got to see old Dylan Brooks for a minute, and he had a pretty darn good game. Torched the Blazers a little bit.
He did.
I can't stand him. And I say that I say, and to be fair, I can't stand him from basketball terms because he's the perfect player. Blazer fans won't admit it unless it would ever happen, but he's the perfect player that when he's wearing any uniform but yours, he is the most annoying player on the court.
Totally.
But if he's wearing yours, you're like, oh, I love that scrappiness.
Yep.
I love the fact we got a guy who gets under every team's skin.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. You saw him get into it with Scoot a few times.
I was sitting there looking at one of the reporters on Media Row, like, there might be some teas before this thing's done. They were going at it.
They were.
And shout out to Scoot. He wasn't backing down.
He wasn't.
He was giving him the forearm here and there, and Dylan Brooks was just going right back at him. I'm like, I didn't know that I needed Scoot versus Dylan Brooks in my life, but we were getting it. It
was intense. I think you mentioned the players that you hate when they're playing against you, but you love when they're playing for you. And I think Dylan is in that category. Same with Draymond Green. Same with the Patrick Beverly. You go back in time a little bit, but there's a few players out there, but you love those guys on your team, right? Dame's talked about it. A bunch of other players have talked about it over the years of having that kind of enforcer, the guy who's getting a chip under other people's skin, has a chip on his shoulder, brings the intensity. You've heard the Warriors speak about it and Draymond and how he's kind of like, the guy that people lean on when they're down or when they're out. So, Dylan is one of a kind in that area.
Yeah, definitely one of a kind. It's funny. Kirk says, I was wrong. I thought Bryce Taylor would be better than Dylan Brooks. Well, that's a throwback. I've told this story before, but back in the day, Oliver, I would go to the rec center and we would run until the lights turned off and we got kicked out. And I remember one day, Bryce Taylor and Malik Hairston showed up. Those are two throwback names, right?
Yeah.
And it was when they were still playing. Shacker, knock it off. Shacker is killing me with these YouTube cuts. I got to take this video and edit it later. Make my life easy, please. But anyway, it was funny because they showed up and they grabbed just 3 random dudes. And if you ever played basketball at the UO Rec Center, there was 3 courts. Very rarely were all 3 open because they'd put volleyball on one or something. But it was always like the first court was where the most talented guys played. Second, and like it went down and it wasn't designed that way. It just happened.
Yeah.
Right. And it was funny. I was always on the middle court. And
of course
anyway,
you were, Chris.
Yeah, I was never trying to. Anytime I got scared if they put me on the first court, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But anyway, Hairston and Taylor show up. They grab 3 random guys, and they play. And for Rory, you play there, it's first to 11 by 1s and 2s, not 2s and 3s, because college kids can't count by 2s and 3s. 1s and 2s are easier. Okay. Malik Hairston and Bryce Taylor proceeded to win the game 11-0 by Malik Hairston getting 11 rebounds and throwing 11 straight full court alley-oops to Bryce Taylor. Get the rebound, full court alley-oop, and Bryce Taylor just run back and catch it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. The jump between I'm a decent rec basketball player to a guy who's playing legit D1 hoops. I'll never forget it because it was insanity.
It's eye-opening, man. When you start playing, people just assume that these guys are good, but they don't know how good they are, right? Like, I have a similar story. I played Brian Scalabrini in a game of horse.
Okay.
And he's like, you want me to play left-handed or like, what do you, I'm like, sure, you can play left-handed. Beat me, skunked me. I got nothing. HORSE, all out. And he was using his left hand the entire time, shooting threes. It was really impressive. And at that moment, I think it's like, okay, I understand how good these guys are. You don't really necessarily see it, even when you're at a Blazer game. You watch these guys go back, but they're all competing against each other, right? So you have no real gauge of how good or how talented these guys are until they step on the court against an average Joe like you or I. Oh. And then you're like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I'll see you later.
Yeah,
bye.
I told this story before to these guys too of how I had to guard Aaron Brooks one day at the rec center, and he went about 5% of his talents, and I'm pretty sure by the end of it I had a sprained MCL. So it was intense, and it's always funny because whenever I sit there, it's like people don't understand. Like if I say, for example, and I don't believe this, I'm just saying, if I say Delano Banton is just a terrible basketball player. No, if I say that, I mean Delano Banton is a terrible basketball player relative to the other 1% of basketball players that are in the NBA with him, because he can walk into any gym in the planet and be the best player there. He can walk on to just about any Division I team and be one of the best players, if not the best. Like that's what we're looking at when we're watching the NBA. The best of the best of the best.
Yep.
Sir, as Will Smith would say in Men in Black, right? So like that's what it's about, man. So it is crazy when you watch these guys and just how crazy they can be. When you see the talent gap, it's pretty wild.
It is. Yeah. I mean, look, you can go across the league and you can say the same thing about basically any player on any bench. You could pull them off and go to any D1 school and they'd be the best player. You could do the same thing with the G League too. I think that's the other thing that's interesting too. Look, the Remix and some of these other teams that are out there, they've got great basketball players. Like these guys were, Bryce McGowan's is a good example of this. I've watched him play in the G League and you're like, okay, he's putting up like 40 points a game.
Right.
Like it is pretty impressive to see the creme de la creme of basketball players in this country.
Yeah, it's and the G League's fun too because now you're getting to see that jump and how much it takes. I've always argued that I think baseball is the hardest sport to go pro in because you watch it how the jump from high school to college
Yeah.
to low level A to high level A to double A to triple A. And it's not just a quick, like they're massive jumps in how talented those guys are. And so if you can get all the way through that farm system, and think about that, football doesn't have that farm system.
No.
It's get through college, be seen, get to the NFL. Basketball now has the G League, and you can go to Europe and play overseas, right? But they don't have the true farm system. Baseball, it's jump, jump, jump. And each level gets harder and harder and harder. By the way, on the YouTube chat, Timmy Hammock chimes in. He says, Brian Scalabrine belongs in the Hall of Fame. Per minute, the most effective player ever.
Yeah, the White Mamba. Gotta love him, man.
I'll see you in the arena because you have a propensity to show up when people are in town. You're a smart guy.
Yep. So use it when I can.
I'm gonna tell you this, Rory. Your dad shows up for Mr. Scalabrine. He shows up to see Dylan Brooks. He's never once shown up to Moda Center just to say hi to me. I just happen to be there.
That's not true.
Your son's just laughing. He's like, "Hey, Chris, I don't think you're that cool. Just chill." All right. Hey, we're gonna take a little break here on Courtside. When we come back, plenty more with Oliver Maroney here. And Maroney, again, first former basketball reporter. Now he's like me. He's a wearer of many hats. So you got to give him credit. But he knows ball, that's for sure. Maybe we'll talk a little Big Three too, man, because you dabbled in that for a little bit.
Whatever works.
But man, I do want to get your thoughts here because I thought Air Weldon had a good point. We didn't get a chance to dive into it yet. But that was all good teams have an enforcer of some kind. And that's true. That's why DB Dylan Brooks, he has a spot here. He has a spot here. Maybe they need to trade for Dylan Brooks, and then he can take over the DB Hooper nickname from Delano Banton. That's okay. It all makes sense. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Don't go anywhere. Play more coming up on Courtside Monday here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you, joined by friend of the show, Oliver Maroney. His good friend Rory McIlroy is joining us too. That's not where you got the name, though, right, Rory? No.
No.
Okay, sort of. Oh, was Dad a Rory McIlroy fan?
My wife liked the name, and then I was like, "Well, Rory McIlroy just won his first."
There you go.
There you go. It tied it all back to sports somehow.
I'm gonna have to talk to my mom. I'll have to go see what Chris's were famous back in 1986. But no, that's fine. I think about my first daughter. Her name's Peyton, and it's because my wife watched The Game Plan with The Rock, and the kid's name in that movie was Peyton, and she liked it.
There you go.
But my middle daughter, her name is Brooke, for the wonderful, famous, wonderful Brooke Olsendale.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
We were trying to figure out names, and my wife was like, "What's that one girl you used to work with? That super sweet girl that you said you liked?" And I'm like, "Oh, are you talking about like the Trailblazers Pulse and all that?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I'm like Brooke," and she's like, "Oh yeah, Brooke." She's like, "I like that name." So we ended up going with Brooklyn.
There we go. That's great. You can't. Oh man, Brooke is so nice.
Yeah,
she's the best.
Yeah. If we would have had a boy, I would have pushed for Oliver. Don't worry, okay?
There we go. There we go.
Of course, that was my luck. I am not the type who's like, I have to have a boy or I have to have a girl. Like, I'm just like, I just want a healthy baby, right?
Whatever works.
When my wife was pregnant. But as it worked out, like when we had our third kid, like we had no idea what we wanted, what girl name we wanted, but we had like in order, like the 3 boy names we wanted. Or like we were ready. We were both like pretty sure it's going to be a boy, and it was not. Kainoa was the leader in the clubhouse. Nope. Didn't get to drop Hawaiian names on my kids. They got Hawaiian middle names, though, so you know they're true. They're true to their roots, my friend. All right, I wanted to get your thoughts on this because you were hinting at it with Dylan Brooks, and you and I had a good conversation in the break too. We'll bring that up too. But I got to go to Aaron Weldon's comment about how every good team has an enforcer, and it's interesting because I think you can argue that he's not obviously the only reason, but when you have a player like Dylan Brooks, it can kind of change your mentality and how you play. And so even though it's unquestionably like he's not the best player on that Houston team, you can tell that his way of playing kind of bleeds out to the rest of the team, and then they start playing with that chip and being that pest. That's why, I mean, for where he was in his career, like, just a perfect fit to be in a team like Memphis, right?
Yeah.
Like embody that whole like grind city and all that.
Totally.
And so, yeah, everybody needs a pest. That's why if you're a Blazer fan, you know how the whole like you love the guy when he's on your team, but I would never want Dylan Brooks. There's probably a lot of fan bases who watch Tumani Kamara and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't stand him."
Yeah.
Because watch how he play. He doesn't jab with the jaw like a Dylan Brooks or a Patrick Beverly does, but he gets in on those guys. Because I saw when you mentioned the Scoot Henderson Dylan Brooks thing, there was a point in that game where Scoot and Dylan are going at it, and Scoot turns to go up the court, and Tumani Kamara gave him the forearm to the chest.
Yeah.
And the refs didn't see, no one called, but like he was right there, and he's like, if you're gonna get under my guy's skin, I'm gonna get under yours. And Dylan Brooks does more of the jaw talking, but he also gets under your skin because he can body you and play great defense and make you work and piss you off, right?
Yeah.
And Tumani does that same thing, again, without the yakking, which I appreciate. Even though I would talk trash with the best of them, so I'm not going to hate on the guy who uses his jaw. Okay, sometimes you lack a little bit of athletic ability, so you got to make sure the jaw knocks him off the game.
Totally,
so it's all part of the chess match, right? So don't hate on it. But man, you go back to that thing and like you think like not necessarily an enforcer, but Draymond played like that for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Pat Bev on all the teams he's been on. I go look at like the Cleveland Cavaliers teams. Like you can't go watch that team and tell me that Matthew Dellavedova just wasn't a pest of a defensive player who could get into your skin.
Totally.
And then you get the enforcer types, the guys who are willing to go out there. And so you need a hockey style goon in the NBA. Like your job is to go out there and just pick up 6 fouls and send a message, right?
Absolutely.
Or play tough basketball. And again, you go back to the Warriors and Andrew Bogut, right? He did that. And Zaza Pachulia kind of fit that role for him too. So Portland, like I look at their and I get your thoughts on this. I'll finally get to the question. But it's like I look at Tumani, a defensive guy who can do that. And then I look at DC. And I look kind of that same. I'll go out there and just body you in the paint, and when he gets better, he's only going to be a better defensive player. So what's your read on these young Blazers and filling those prototypical roles for good teams?
I mean, I love Tumani. I think he's one of the most underappreciated, undervalued players in the NBA right now. I mean, I know there's a lot of guys who value him, like him, have seen him play. There's a lot of fans out there that know who he is, but I still think he's going under the radar. And I think he has like that defensive player of the year type of thing in his future if the team gets better, things work out, et cetera. I think when you think about Donovan Clingan, same thing. You see him yap. He's got a little more of a mouth, actually. Like, you don't see it necessarily on camera a lot, but, I've been on the court where he's talking to other players and, like, getting into it, getting chippy. And you like to see that. I think you still kind of want someone who's been in the league long enough and has that kind of veteran experience. I even look at Houston. They have, like, Adams in there and some other guys that
I looked at one of the media members sitting next to me that game, and I go, I really wish Portland were a playoff team right now and Steven Adams were a backup center.
Yeah.
He is so likable, and he does that. He's gonna body you and make you work, man.
Yeah, he was talking. He has that mentality as well. They have a few of those guys though, and I think Dylan is like one of those pieces that it's like a spark plug, right? It kind of like it goes through a few of the different players, and you can kind of see the difference. He had a few moves and a few buckets that he scored. I mean, he had a good game. But the bench went crazy when he was scoring, some of these impressive shots that he was making. And so I think that you can tell when a player is really liked and when they change kind of the motivation of the team and how they're feeling and things like that. And I bet you Ime Udoka wants more of that. And it really feels like that's the combo there. It's the coach and that player. And like, even when Steve Kerr and Draymond, like, Kerr wanted him to continue to do some of that stuff. He knew what he was kind of like, what he had in him. And so I think when you look at it, it really comes down to the coach and the player working in tandem and them feeding off of each other to make the rest of the team feel like they can do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the comments on YouTube, Oliver, and I don't know why I didn't even think of him, but it's like when you talk about the guy who can get chippy, Denny Avdia does that really, really well.
Denny's great, especially offensively. Like he is drawing contact. He's got a little bit of James Harden to him in some senses. Like he is drawing contact when he goes to the rim. He's trying to get those fouls and those opportunities. And then when he gets them or he doesn't get them, you see the frustration. You see the kind of like aggression. And that's what you want to see from players sometimes, especially on a team like this that's young. You need them to be hungry. Like that's the differentiator between, I mean, look, if I look down the Houston roster right now, sure, they've got good players. Don't get me wrong. But you can't sit here and tell me that at the beginning of the season that you were thinking the Houston Rockets would be the 2 seed in the West.
No. Find the person who says that, and I'll show you a liar.
Yeah. And so I guess my point being is like they've found the ingredients to success with the players that they have, and they all feed off each other in the right way. They've got a great coach in Ime Udoka. They've got a great core of players, a lot of vets like Van Vliet. They've been there. They've done that. Guy like Jalen Green, who's finally starting to show his own. It's just like all those pieces together work really well. I mean, even like Cleveland wasn't last season. They were good. They weren't great. And now you're looking at them and you're like, okay, these guys are unstoppable. And you look at their roster on paper and you're sitting there like, okay, they got Donovan Mitchell. They got Darius Garland. They got some fringe all-star guys on top of that, like Evan Mobley. But they just put the pieces together and they're starting to gel and you're starting to see it. And I think this is more of the future of the NBA with like some of the salary cap and CBA stuff and everything else that you have. You're going to have these players that are like on minimums, on, short-term kind of like 10, 15, $20 million deals versus these big superstar caliber numbers. And they're going to be the ones that are going to make or break your team. And you're seeing it right now with Oklahoma City, with Cleveland, with Houston. They all kind of have a similar recipe to success. So obviously, they got all-stars on their team. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, you could argue Houston, it's like Jalen Green, I guess. But, like, other than that, I'm not sitting there being like, Sengun is
you have
there,
Green. You have Green and Sengun who are like they're right there on the fringe of really taking the jump to being pure all-stars.
Yes,
they've shown it, but they're not like standing out as like that's 100% an all-star guy.
Yeah,
but they're getting there. And with Houston too, and that's one thing when people start to argue like Chauncey Billups, is it time to move off from him and who blah blah, and then you'll get people who be like, well, coaching really doesn't matter. You just got tell that to Houston.
Yeah.
Because Ime Udoka took the exact same roster that was terrible, and he changed them overnight. And then they go get a couple of vets, and they put it together, and now look at them.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Cleveland, too. And anyone who's just tuning in, and this is the first time they've ever heard me, is going to think I'm a liar. But people who listen, all these guys will know I've been on this one for years. Like, I never understood why Kenny Atkinson got interviewed for pretty much every single head coaching job, but never got it. Because he was good in Brooklyn.
He was great in Brooklyn with the roster they had. Like, there were zero expectations, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, he was D'Angelo Russell was an all-star with Kenny. It's pretty outrageous to think of some of the coaching decisions that have been made across the board and across the league.
Right.
And the coaches that kind of stick around forever and the coaches that don't. And you look at a guy like you mentioned, Kenny Atkinson. It's like, this guy, he's been known to be a great coach. Like, everywhere he's gone, he's had that kind of DNA about him. The teams have the same DNA. They work hard. They play hard. And this team in Cleveland, like, guys like Donovan Mitchell are good, hardworking. It is like, it was funny. The other day I was at the Houston game and I was chatting with one of the agents, and we're talking about what makes players different, what makes teams special. And it really does come down to, there's a very small difference between the top 20 guy in the league, top 25 guy in the league, to the top 100 guy. Yeah. And the real difference is that little extra work ethic, that little extra this, that little extra that. It's very fine lines here that we're working with. And I think it's interesting to me when you start seeing this together. Brooklyn, we were just talking about Kenny Atkinson. Yeah. And I think coaching has a piece of that, right? You have guys like a Mitchell, a Mobley, a Garland. They're like fringe. You're talking about these fringe players. And then they get to that extra next step that makes them that much better and makes them able to compete at a higher level than they were previously.
Right. You ever see the movie Waiting with Ryan Reynolds?
Oh yeah.
That's why I started laughing mid sentence, because you made me think of the scene where they made the new guy watch the corporate video. And they got the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. It's that little extra.
Yeah. But it's just so true, man. All these players are good. We just discussed how good all these players are.
Right.
There isn't that I don't think there's as much different as people make it out to be. Of course, LeBron is in a different territory. All these players that we talk about, the all-stars, sure. Bona fide every year, night in, night out, year in, year out, all-stars. But outside of that, the difference between, the fifth guy on a team and the third best guy on a team is very little. And it's the right situation. It's the right coaching. It's all those little ingredients that come together that make that team that much better. And we've seen it here in Portland too. Guys that were on the fringe that ended up making things happen. I look at a guy like Gary Trent, a guy. There's a laundry list of players that started a little bit lower and got a little bit better, and got a little bit better, and they got to the point where you're like, okay, we can work with this stuff.
I think Gary Trent's an interesting example to your point too, because in Portland, he's finding minutes. Portland's still trying to find their way. Goes to Toronto, has a good season, then he starts to fall off.
Yep.
Now he's in Milwaukee and he's not even seeing the floor. But but to your point is, you can look at that and be like, oh, Gary Trent's not very good. He's not even playing the game. But if you go out there and you give him 30 minutes a night, he's going to find a way to give you 15, 5, and 5.
Totally.
Now does he have plenty of holes in his games?
Of course.
Yes, that's why he's not playing. But when you give a guy minutes, he's going to find ways to be productive. But again, not productive enough once you get a full complement of players, and then you start finding what separates them. It's like Delano Banton. I love Delano Banton. I can't really talk bad about Delano Banton because he takes opportunity and runs with it, right? But there's a reason that he doesn't play a ton every single night. And if the team's fully healthy, he's not playing. But when you give him 20-minute runs, sometimes when the team's beat up, he takes the ball. Next thing you know, he has 23 points. It's that gap. It's not there. And another thing I think sets players apart, Oliver, and this is something we talked about with the YouTube chat and on Fifth Quarter the other night, is, and it's what I think will separate Shea eventually, is some of these players are good. And I know this sounds weird, and you've dealt with enough of them to know some of these players are so darn talented, but lack the confidence in themselves to trust their own talent.
Yeah.
And so the minute, for Shea, once Shea walks into the Moda Center and has that bravado of, I'm the best basketball player in this gym right now, nobody can sit next to me. then you take the leap. Like
Yeah.
that, like the whole Mamba mentality. That's what Mamba mentality was.
Totally.
That was Kobe Bryant walking into any gym. It didn't matter if he was a young dude facing Michael Jordan. He go, I'm the best MFer in this gym. You can't touch me.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
there's a ton of guys in the league that have that moment, that aha. You know, the one that I think of a lot, and I know Portland fans will resonate with this a little bit, but CJ McCollum's kind of an example of this in some regard. Now, obviously injury situation, but if you think about the playoff series where Wes Matthews is out and CJ comes in against Memphis, he was the best player on the floor for like 2 of those playoff games, if I'm not mistaken, and that led to him becoming partially the player that he is today, the player that he was in Portland afterwards. And I think, you know, for Shea, he needs to take that next step forward. Like you said, he needs to get rid of the hesitancy that he has. Like he's got something there. It's like there were a couple times even last night. He's sitting on the edge of the 3-point line, and you're thinking, okay, he should shoot the shot. And then he takes like an extra split second, and it's gone. And you're thinking, take that shot, take it. And, you know, and once he gets that down, it's the same thing with Scoot. Like to some degree, Scoot has had the same problem where it's like you could drive to the basket, you can get a basket every once in a while, but for Scoot, it feels like he's hesitating, like he's not going full drive all the time. And now we've seen this little element here where he's like, okay, I'm taking this 3-pointer,
right,
and I'm not thinking about it twice.
Yeah, and again, some of that comes with being a vet, because like watch Jeremy Grant. I know people are polarized on him about, you know, trading a vet and whatnot. But one thing he does exceptionally well that I think a guy like Shea could learn from is how many times does he catch a ball in the corner and knows that if he takes the time to gather himself and go through his full regular motion, it's a blocked shot, or he's going to have to pass the ball. And he just takes the ball where he catches it and just goes right into his shooting motion. Yeah. And he hits it. He's perfected just taking the ball wherever he gets it and getting right into his shot. And again, like with your point on Shea, I saw it again. I think it might have been that Houston game where he gets the ball and there's no defender around him when he gets the ball out on the wing. He could take that 3, but he stops and hesitates. And that split hesitation got the defender on him. He had to put the ball on the court. They had to reset the offense. It was gone. It was gone. And then back to the whole playing with that aura, because that can make good players great. It can make average players good, because that aura of I'm the baddest dude in this gym. Dylan Brooks has that. And if Dylan Brooks didn't have that,
he wouldn't be in the league.
His skill set
he may not be in the league. He may not be in the league.
Exactly. Because his skill set puts him at his skill set might put him more with the Gary Trents.
Yep.
Right? I mean, he's more talented than Gary Trent, but I'm just saying in that realm. But because he plays with that mentality of I'm the best dude here, even though most people be like, dude,
come on,
you're not at all. But that makes him go out there and play with that, you know, cliche reckless abandon. That makes him good. So again, the mental part of things sometimes can be just as important as the physical side of things.
100%.
And can really set players apart, man.
100%. I mean, it is time and time again been proven that these players that have these mental, like, kind of like gaps, mental kind of brick wall, I guess you could call it in some regard. Once that's broken, it's like a totally new player. And you're seeing it with Scoot right now. Game after game, the last 4 games, you have seen the confidence start to, like, go into the play. And they're playing, candidly, they've been playing a lot better the past 3 or 4 games, in my opinion.
They have been playing better ball, even though they've lost 3 of their last 4.
3 of their last 4. But
you look at Brooklyn, you look at the Clippers, you look at Miami. I've been saying it. My favorite part about those games, even with the loss, is the best players on the floor that night for the Blazers. The Scoots, the Shays, the Tumani, the young guys they're supposed to be building around, and that's good to see. In your college football national championship update, that 7-zip lead and that just methodical drive that Notre Dame had to start the game, that's a thing in the past. Ohio State just found pay dirt again. PAT coming. They're up 27-7 right now with 12 and a half left in the third quarter. Good job, Chip Kelly. Shout out. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Courtside Monday. When we come back, I'm not letting Rory be quiet anymore. We got to get his sports takes, my man. Chris Burkhardt, Oliver Maroney, and my man Rory coming back after the break right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday. I hope we're on air. I can't hear myself anymore. I gave away my headphones because I was going to bring my boy Rory on. We were going to have some fun. Look at me. I'm a man of the people. We take care of business. Rory, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. All right. I want you to take the floor for a second. I want you to tell me why you love Dylan Brooks so much.
Okay. So he was on the Oregon Ducks.
That's
Yeah.
a good reason.
Also he's like aggressive and yeah, stuff like that.
What's your favorite thing he does?
I'm not totally sure.
All of it?
Sort of.
Okay, if it's not Dylan Brooks, for the obvious reasons, the Ducks, your dad's worked with him before, you got some connections. Who else? Who are some of your other favorite players in the NBA?
I really like Scoot. Yeah.
That's a good pull.
Mhm.
Okay. How about your favorite? Can't be Dylan Brooks. It can't be Scoot. Your favorite non-Blazer.
Okay.
Oh, he's thinking.
Throw some out.
I want him to come on. I want to see what your deep
Come
cut
on.
pulls are. What you got, Rory?
Maybe like John Morant.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. He likes you like it. You like Scoot. You like Dylan Brooks. You like athletes. That's what you like. You like athletes.
Guys who can dunk.
People who can jump out the gym. Rory likes you. What about what is your favorite Trailblazers memory?
Maybe when they won the one against Philadelphia in like the 1977
This kid, I love it.
championship.
You were like -30.
He's YouTubed a lot of videos, man. He's on it.
So you're a big fan of Bill Walton. You like Maurice Lucas.
Yeah.
He's a man of the people right here.
He is.
See?
He likes Brandon Roy a lot too. He's been watching a lot of Brandon Roy.
Who doesn't like B. Roy?
I mean, you can't not like him. That's true.
How old are you, Rory?
9.
9, and he's out here watching videos from 1977. See, Oliver, you're doing a good job, my man.
We're doing good. We're doing good, right?
Because you know what my daughters would say if I showed them a video from 1977? Why is it all fuzzy? How come it's not clear? I can't see it. It's not bright enough. Can I watch Gabby's Dollhouse? Can I play Fortnite instead? You play Fortnite?
No.
No. What's your go-to video game? Or are you not a gamer?
Oh, he's a gamer.
Okay.
What's your go-to video game? It should be obvious.
His age range, it's Roblox or Minecraft, Fortnite. Oh, wait. Oliver said it's obvious. So my guess is he's an elite GM in NBA 2K.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's got his My Player. He's scoring 50 points a night. He's doing the whole thing.
What position you playing?
Point guard.
Point guard is the most fun to play in My Player. I go out. Oh, man, I'm tired. I was being mean to my girls, and now my wife's texting me. Hey, now, be nice to my girls.
Stop that.
Come on. No. Hey, Danielle, be completely honest. I put that. If I put a show on from 1977, they ain't watching it. My wife's over here. Bless her heart. She's trying, like, they have slumber parties every weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Because we bring down the big movie screen.
Okay.
And have the projector in the living room. And they always want to watch something. And my wife's always like, how about we watch something like E.T.? You know, classic. It's like I said, classic. No, it's just no. But can we watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the 10th time? Like, but it has to be like the new one. Like,
oh yeah, yeah, that's fun.
We're having fun. We are having fun. Well, what else do you want to talk about though, Rory? I'm gonna make you be the host. You can ask me, and we got about 4 minutes. You can ask me and your dad any question you want to ask. Doesn't even have to be basketball related. You can ask it. You're the host. This is Courtside Monday with Rory.
Okay. Maybe like what basketball players have you like met or seen play really well?
Seen play really well?
Really well.
Well, I have been fortunate enough to cover this league long enough. I got to see Kobe Bryant tear it up many times at Moda Center. And I think there's about 4 players that I've got to watch personally go to that next level where they took over a game and they couldn't be stopped. And it was I watched Steph Curry do it. I've watched Dame do it. I've watched Giannis do it, and I watched Kobe do it. Now, I know there's more players than those who have done it, but those are the 4 I've seen in person just take a game over to a point they could not be stopped, and it was something to behold.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna go best players, what was it? What was the question again? It was what best
players that you watched you watched and they were like, oh my gosh, they were really good.
Klay Thompson, he had a huge game. I think it was against Oklahoma City. That was pretty impressive. I saw Kobe's.
Is that the famous 7 dribble game?
7, yeah. Kobe's last All-Star game.
Okay.
I got to see that. That was pretty fun because they were trying to feed him the ball and it's a whole thing. Dame, same thing. I think everybody here in Portland has seen a Dame game where he's just taken over.
Yeah.
And I would say, you know what? Actually, here's an interesting one, and I was there to watch it. That's why it's so fun. This one specifically is like a way out of bounds. Jared Bayless in the Summer League.
Yeah, hey, that's not out of bounds. Some of those Summer League games.
That's where it goes down.
Jared Bayless, Summer League legend.
Summer League.
There's always those
legend.
players who look real good in Summer League, and then he was a good athlete. Though.
He was a heck of an athlete.
That's another one to your dad's point. Never know, because these players are all really good. But then when you get to the NBA, it's really tough. All right, music means it's time to go. Oliver,